Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. Let's review the situation in Avdiivka. As you can see, Russia took more ground today with their assault. I'm very concerned about the situation on the northern part of Avdiivka town in general, and we may understand that the fighting is ongoing in the town already. Moreover, the distance between current Russian positions and a very critical supply road is a little bit less than 1 kilometer, so very close distance. But Ukraine sent more reinforcements trying to stop the Russian advancement, and we have the confirmation that now Russian forces being stopped in this place. That's why now they're advancing to the different part. So actually Russian forces made a huge leap for the 3 days. It was mainly possible because of the poor visibility, so Ukraine wasn't able to use some of the drones on the northern part of Avdiivka. It was a foggy weather with some of the precipitation, and unfortunately we do not have the robust defense lines in this sector. They were not being prepared for the Russian assault. Why? It's the other question, my friends. Unfortunately now it's too late to create them somewhere here, because all this area is under the Russian artillery fire or even aviation bombs fire. Now let's go to our interactive 3D map. I want to find out whether there are some of the other supply lines left for Ukrainian army in Avdiivka to be used, obviously. So here is the main road. It goes through this factory and then enters the town. From what I can see, there is also one field road, the secondary one. It has very bad pavement, but still could be used even during the winter time conditions. But for it, the weather should be more or less dry. But here you can see that the gray zone is very close to the place, unfortunately. So this road, I would say, is unusable. However, there is one more field road available. You don't need to go over here. You need to turn to the right to this place. But here it's very important that the bridge should be fine to cross this river, and after it, go to Lastochkina and then to this supply road on the north. So probably it is the only alternate possible way out for Ukraine to continue supply Avdiivka, but it is not the robust way, I would say. The problem is this small river. You have to cross it a couple of times. Not sure if it has water right now. The satellite images could be different with reality, but if the weather is very wet, I believe that in the lower ground you may anticipate some of the mud, let's say, that will slow down the movement of supplies or your army vehicles. But still it is the possible way out for Ukrainian army to leave the positions in Avdiivka. We are looking for those possible scenarios as well. And let's check the terrain in the place. It is more or less flat terrain. It is actually good. Here we have one more military map showing the forces of our enemy and Ukrainian forces as well. Ukraine still has some of the reinforcements in the area, but whether it's profitable to send them to fight in Avdiivka in the urban environment, because if Russia enters the urban environment, in that case Ukraine will have more losses compared to just fights in the fields. At least that is what happened in Bakhmut, for example. Before Wagnerites entered the city, they had severe losses. The ratio was at least 1 to 5. But then they entered the city, the ratio was 1 to 1, unfortunately for Ukrainian side. That's why Ukraine retreated from the city. Then the fights start to happen over there quite fast, I would say, compared to the previous fights that were ongoing for many months. The same stuff we may wait in Avdiivka, because we know the history. And one more military map showing the advancement of the Russian army on the northern sector of Avdiivka, also a little on the south. Here they stopped completely, but if they take the main supply road under their control, I would say that it's time to withdraw the forces from Avdiivka, at least to the nearby positions, to this place somewhere, because supplies really matter. There could be a long fight for this factory, by the way, because it's quite easy to support it with some of the supplies. You have some of the field roads out there, and the main road goes just towards the factory. But for the main Avdiivka town, it's almost impossible to defend without proper and robust supplies. The only way how Ukraine might stop the Russian advancement is to use many more FPV drones and other types of the drones, and we have some of the good news about it. President Zelensky has announced today that Ukraine will create a separate drone army, separate drone unit that will purposely train and operate FPV drones and other types of the drones. It has never been done in any kind of the army. There will be thousands of people involved, drone operators, engineers, and the main thing that government will support it directly because it is the part of its army. So finally, at the second year of the war, we have the government program for the drones. Awesome. Potentially, it might increase the effectiveness of Ukrainian army by several times. Yes, it is that important. About the other sports on the front lines, everything is more or less stable, except, as I said to you, Avdiivka, where Russia got some turn success. My duty is to report everything of what is happening on the front lines, including the bad news as well. Still, I do not think that Ukraine will leave Avdiivka during this month in March. Well, we're gonna see. About the Kherson direction in Krinky, Ukraine still keeps positions over there. Russia still tries to get that ground. Obviously, they have numerous of the attack attempts, but this time they sent mostly infantry forces without any backup from artillery or from infantry vehicles or tanks. They already lost too much of them in this direction, but what is too much for Russia? I think it's nothing. They don't know this word. And the Ukrainian flag was spotted in the field of Krinky village itself. We have the video confirmation from the drone that Ukraine still keeps those positions. If Russia assaulted towards that field, taking it under control, they would obviously put this flag out from the ground. About the Russian disaster near to Novomikhailivka, then they lost lots of the tanks and armored vehicles like MTLBs mostly. Well, those videos or photos were shown to Putin personally, and he was really angry. Yeah, we have just rumors about it coming from the Russian side, from Kremlin, but still, I would believe in that because Putin wants to implement a special law. This new law is supposed to regulate the information coming to the management of the country to avoid mismatches or lies, because Putin seems to have just a positive information about the Russian success. But sometimes it doesn't happen. In most of the times, it doesn't happen as he thinks. Why is it crucial for him? Because he wants to show the achievements, for example, taking Avdiivka town before elections. He wants to show the result for Russian society that step by step Russia is taking the ground, Russia is pushing Ukrainian forces, or as they say, NATO forces out from their territory, but actually it's a big mistake by Putin, and our job is to not let Russia to succeed, for example, in Avdiivka, till the elections time. Not because in this case Putin wouldn't be elected, but we need to slow down his progress, and we need the questions in the Russian society to arise whether this special military operation is really necessary. The Institute for the Study of War says that the situation in Avdiivka is not that critical for Ukrainian army, and moreover Ukraine has the success near to Novelsk. It's on the south from Avdiivka. I told you about it yesterday that Ukraine went on a counterattack, taking the ground and pushing Russian forces out a little. So yeah, the situation is not that catastrophic for Ukrainian army, but if you look at this map, you'll see that Russia has all of the chances to take Avdiivka under control. Not encircling the Ukrainian army, because obviously our generals are not stupid. They're gonna withdraw Ukrainian forces at the proper moment, but still Russia has pretty much high chances to occupy this town. More chances than for Ukraine to keep it under control for a very long time, so my forecast that finally Russia would take Avdiivka under control in a few months, not just this month, not maybe in March, but there is also a big question, but maybe April or May they'll fully take and occupy this city, unfortunately, because we are out of the main resources from our main ally, the United States of America, and the European allies. They do support weaponry to Ukrainian army, but not as much as we need. So we need the help from the United States Army for sure to keep the ground on the eastern side of the front lines. Without it, we're gonna withdraw the forces out, not just from Avdiivka, but from all of the other places, for example, from Kupiansk in the long-term perspective. And there is a huge problem with the new bill that was agreed by the senators. It includes the border control and the military help for Ukraine, Israel, and partially to Taiwan. I saw the document, it's around 300 pages, very long, so I tried to focus on what we need about the border control and the military help for Ukraine. So about the border control, United States will send lots of the funds for the security of the borders on the south, obviously. New, more strict regulations will also apply for the border security. Patrolling will also be increased. So this bill really helps to secure the border of the United States. But somehow Republicans, and I'm speaking about the MAGA club and Trump himself, they do not want to vote for it. They do not want to help Ukraine, Israel, and they do not want to secure the United States border. Democrats give in a lot for this agreement, and many Republicans in Senate agreed that this deal is outstanding and they should vote for it, but MAGA group has a lot of influence in the Republican Party. That's why probably this bill will not go through. President Biden calls for bill to be voted, otherwise it will bring victory for Putin. So this issue is directly connected to Ukraine, and those of you who might write that Dennis do not go for United States politics, stay out of it. No, I will tell a lot about what is happening in the United States, what is happening around the Trump, and how he plays on Putin's side. He even sent his ambassador Tucker Carlson to Moscow today. He'll take the interview from Putin, and they will also discuss the common game how to put Trump in the seat of the White House. Trump is interested for Ukraine to lose in this war for sure, so Putin also is. More about this stuff I'll film on my other channel hopefully today. Let's go to some of the combat images. So here you see Bradley. It goes on counterattack against the Russian forces. So before they occupied all of this part, by the way, this is Avdiivka and Russian forces are somewhere over here because Bradley fires to those positions. But unfortunately, later on, Bradley hit the mine in this place. Luckily, American fighting vehicles are very robust. That is why it continued the movement and shoot towards the Russian spots, but not for a long time. Maybe Caterpillar or Trike was broken. That is why crew evacuated from this vehicle after some time. So this vehicle saves lives of our soldiers. Unfortunately, it was abandoned and hopefully will be evacuated by Ukrainian engineers in the nearby future. As you see, Ukraine is losing army vehicles, losing resources in this war, so we need constant support from our allies, from the West, from the United States. And you know what? China is also looking at this picture, and they are up to decide whether to invade Taiwan or not in a close-by perspective. And I guess from what they see, they might do it, because the United States is hesitating supporting Ukraine. The good news is that the United States of America approved the supplyment of the cruise missiles to Netherlands. We are speaking about AGM-158B or B2 modification and also JASSM-ER. Those are sophisticated long-range cruise missiles very capable against the Russian targets behind the front lines, maybe not only against the Russian targets. Russian air defense is unable to cope with it, and let me show you the video about the effectiveness of the cruise missiles or ineffectiveness of the Russian air defense. So here we go, it is Crimea and it is the recent Ukrainian attack on the Russian bases out there. You may see lots of the smoke. Russia fires the missiles to target the cruise missile. Probably you have seen it on this video. It flies like that. So Russia fired lots of the missiles and were not able to intercept this cruise missile, which was flying to reach the Russian airfield Belbek, and quite successfully as we know it right now. Yes, for now the American cruise missiles will be delivered to Netherlands, but Netherlands deliver F-16s to Ukraine, so probably they will equip those with those cruise missiles. There was a huge leak concerning the Iranian-made Shahed-136 drones, which Russia buys a lot from Iran. We're speaking about thousands of them. Western hackers were able to intercept all of the documentation relative to those drones and also the purchase bills for the Russian Federation. They call this thing a boat, and Iran they call Ireland. It was done just for a conspiracy. Indeed, Russia purchases those drones from Iran, as it was said before many times. From the deal, we know that those drones are not as cheap as Russia said before, or pro-Russian sources said before. They mentioned that each drone costs not more than $50,000, but indeed it costs around $300,000, to be more accurate, $290,000. Russia was able to purchase them with 40% of discount because they ordered more than 6,000 units. And the jet version of the drone costs more than $1 million. So totally for this program, Russia wasted already 1.8 billion United States dollars. And are those drones effective? I wouldn't say so. Well, they were effective at the first time, but now Ukraine found out the ways how to shut them down, and 95% of all of those drones are being shut down by Ukrainian air defense. Ukraine continued to target the Russian infrastructure, this time in Belgorod People's Republic. From the image, I might say that probably there was the oil depot or the power plant that was under attack by the drones. I haven't got lots of the information about this case right now, but we have the photo, and it is the confirmation about Ukrainian strike on Russian infrastructure. The Ukrainian ground drone steals the Russian UAV Orlan-10 from the Russian positions and tows it to Ukrainian positions. A very effective way to steal some sort of equipment from the Russian side. Good trophy, but Russia has thousands of Orlan-10 surveillance drones, unfortunately. Those are definitely very cheap to produce. The Telegraph publishes a new scenario for the global conflict between Russia and Europe. So Russia might deploy 200,000 new soldiers to Ukraine this year, announcing mobilization or maybe just hiring soldiers, because Russia is kind of the poor country if you live outside Moscow or St. Petersburg. Phase 2, they might create the artificial riots in the Baltic countries like Latvia, Lithuania or Estonia, saying that their local governments humiliate Russian speakers. Because of those protests or riots, Russia will send more reinforcements to Kaliningrad and will start the military exercise in Belarus. The next stage for Russia is to spark the border conflict using rioters in Suwalki corridor that connects potentially Belarus and Kaliningrad Oblast. And stage number 5, where Putin may send more reinforcements to get Suwalki corridor under control, to create it basically between Belarus and Kaliningrad. So here is go-no-go decision for Russia to start this global war, and also for NATO countries to use their forces in direct confrontation with the Russian army or not, just because of small piece of land that many might say. And I'm sure that Putin might do it. I think that he has this plan in his head. He is willing to raise the stakes very high and see the NATO reaction. And NATO should be ready to defend itself. My friends, please don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. And also, if you want to support my job, you may check some of the links in the video description just below. You may support me on Patreon or on the sponsorship of this YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your awesome support. My friends, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.